In this glass is the new Yoichi 10 from Nikka Whisky. Nuff said. Welcome to Kanpai Planet. I'm Mac, coming to you from Aloha Whiskey Bar in Tokyo, and today I'm putting the new Yoichi 10, the old Yoichi 10, and the current single malt Yoichi no age statement whiskies head to head to head. Today we're doing things a little differently to my previous videos on Kanpai Planet, where typically you'd get a lot of background information about the whiskies I'm about to review, its origins, the design of the bottle, the birthday of the farmer who grew the barley. All that can be found in my previous video about the return of the Yoichi 10. You can think of that as part one of this new Yoichi 10 series. Check that out to discover the origins of the Yoichi core range, the Nikka Age-mageddon, and Nikka's slow but steady recovery, which all led to this, the first Nikka age statement general release single malt in 7 years. I've also previously reviewed the no age statement single malt Yoichi on Kanpai Planet. That video will give you some background about the Yoichi Distillery itself and their use of coal-fired stills. So let's dive straight into it. All three of these bottles in front of me are 45% alcohol by volume, and they're a blend of malt whiskies from New American Oak, ex-sherry, ex-bourbon, and refilled, remade, and recharred casks. But the exact combination of barrel types varies depending on the particular product and indeed the batch. Now, before anybody gets too excited, this bottle is a mock-up that I've created because the word video derives from the Latin for I see, or in this case, you see. It's not the workmanship you expect from a typical Nikka label. I mean, look at what happened after I spilled a few drops of whiskey on it. The whiskey in this glass was sent to me by my friends at Bar Botta in Otaru in Hokkaido. It's a venerable institution of a bar, housed in a, well, traditional Japanese house that will be 100 years old in 2023, just in time for the 100th anniversary of Japanese whiskey. The bar specializes in Nikka Whisky and Ben Nevis, who Nikka own, and much, much more. It's located about 20 kilometers from the Yoichi Distillery itself. Thank you very much to the legend, Bar Botta owner, Miyata-san, for sending me this. For such an important bottle, I really felt I needed to do my research. So I've actually tried this a few times already. For example, here at Bar Tsurukame in Ningyocho, Tokyo. You heard that right, Tokyo. You might recall that Nikka announced that they were initially releasing this in Hokkaido before a nationwide release on the 15th of November 2022. What they didn't say in their press release is that they're sending bottles to bars around the country which are run by Taketsuru senior ambassadors. Those Taketsuru senior ambassadors also received a single cask Yoichi and Miyagi-kyo 10-year from Nikka at the end of 2021. Perhaps that was a clue back then that we could actually expect a general release age statement soon. So, let's review. Okay, checking out the color. Well, I'm not going to say too much about it because there is added color here to smooth out variations between batches, but they've given it this bright, pale gold, light amber color. Nikka, like Suntory, are big fans of consistency, so it's not natural color, and it's also chill filtered. On the nose. You've got two main notes that immediately jump out at you: peat and banana. There's this light smoke there, but really we're talking peat. A thud of peat, actually, very earthy, very soil-y. It is quite crisp, but it's not very integrated. Alongside that, there is a lot of banana. It's very estery. Thank you, isoamyl acetate. There's some citrus, a lemon, there's some orange marmalade, there's some vanilla. It's quite fresh. Not clean, but crisp. Kanpai. That peat is there, of course. It isn't completely overwhelming, but like on the nose, it isn't integrated. But like the nose, it's also quite fruity. That banana's there, along with some apple. Thank you, ethyl caproate. There's some peach, some orange, and also some vanilla. It's also a little salty and briny actually. There's a lovely seaweed note there. Interestingly, the mouthfeel is not very oily or coating, despite that strong peat presence. The finish is medium long. The peat and the banana share the honors there. In fact, that peat dissipates over time, leaving you with this long lingering fruit, which is really nice. There's also a little bit of salt on the finish. So, what's the verdict on the new Yoichi 10? It's pretty good. If that peat had been a little more integrated and they were able to deliver some more depth and complexity, then it would have been devastatingly good. The Japan recommended retail price of 8,800 yen after tax feels about right, both for what you're getting, but also for a release from one of the big two of a 10-year age. It's time to put it head to head with the former Yoichi 10, which was discontinued in 2015. Surprisingly, the former Yoichi 10 was non-chill filtered, but same as the new one, color was added to even out batch variation. But you can see here that it's darker than the new formulation. Ooh, okay, the first thing that hits me about this relative to the new Yoichi 10 is the same feeling as the difference between the new and old Taketsuru pure malts. Where the new Taketsuru is fresher, crisper, younger, the old Taketsuru is deeper and more sumptuous. That's the same feeling straight off the bat that I'm getting here. It feels like more sherry casks have been used in the older version versus the new. There is fruit here, but the sweetness goes a lot deeper than that. Think some thick, delicious honey. It is a very complex and balanced nose, more so than the new Yoichi 10, and man, that brings back fond memories. You know, I always get a lemon tea and oolong tea note out of this. The fruits that are there are ripe fruits, and that earthy peat, characteristic of the Yoichi profile, is there, but it's much more integrated than in the new one. Yeah, this new one is much fruitier. Like I said, there are some fruits here, but there's also more floral notes. The key word for the difference between these two is depth. Ooh. It really feels like there are older liquids in the older one than the newer iteration. I'm getting raisins, figs, prunes, again making me think that there's more sherry cask influence in the older version versus the newer one. I'm getting an incense note, I'm getting a vegetal note, but all of these are beautifully integrated together, much more so than in the new. There's a lovely velvety mouthfeel here, more oily than the new, but not overwhelmingly so. The finish is medium long with some salt at the end. On the way to that, you're gonna get some chocolate, a little bit of refreshing bitterness, more orange than banana. That honey is there, and that integrated peat is providing a lovely smoke that envelops everything. In this dram, the peat plays a more supporting role rather than the starring dominant position that it holds in the new one. This was an outstanding dram, a great 10-year that really punched above its weight. And can you believe that its recommended retail price at the time of its discontinuation was only 5,011 yen after tax? Delicious. Now on to the current single malt Yoichi no age statement bottle. It's chill filtered and has added color, and putting it side by side, you can see that the new Yoichi 10 is a little darker. The nose is pretty pronounced. It's actually saltier and brinier than the new 10, and that's accompanied by some of the same notes as in the new 10. Some lemon, some, in this case, unripe banana, some vanilla, and a bit of cinnamon. There's an interesting peppermint note in this one that isn't in the new 10. On the palate, you're actually getting a lot of the same notes that you get in the new 10, just maybe a little less pronounced or a little less balanced. Lemon, banana, melon, earthiness, malt, salt, brine. You can go and watch my full review of this to double check, but it's really interesting to me that I've picked out similar notes in both of these bottles. They've definitely built the new Yoichi 10 in what we might call the post-Age-Mageddon Yoichi house style. The finish is about the same length, maybe slightly shorter than the new 10, and you've got some citrus, some peat, and some salinity. I do like the Yoichi no age statement, and it's really not bad at all at 4,620 yen after tax in Japan. But when you put it side by side with the age statements, it does taste a little thin. So best to drink it by itself and not think about these and what you're missing out on. So head to head, I have to give it to the old Yoichi 10, followed by the new Yoichi 10, and then the no age statement Yoichi. I can definitely see what they were going for with this new iteration, trying to maintain that distinctive smokiness from the coal-fired distillation and those peaty notes from the peated malt that is characteristic of the Yoichi core range, but also add a fruity dimension to proceedings. But there's a depth in the old 10 which is just not present in the new one. You know, the new Yoichi 10 is not that much of a leg up from the single malt Yoichi no age statement, which may actually be a reflection of the fact that this is really not a bad whiskey at all, and that it's a pretty good reflection of this new Yoichi house style that they're going for. So should you buy it? Well, the majority of these bottles are going to bars and restaurants. So if you do happen to find it on the shelves for 8,800 yen after tax, then absolutely pick one up. You're buying a piece of liquid history from Nikka, and it really is not a bad dram at all. It's a 10-year, 100% Japanese whiskey, and it's nice. Just not as nice as it could have been. There are plans for overseas distribution, but details are currently undisclosed. Where do we go from here? A Miyagi Kyo 10 up next? I'm just happy that we've begun the journey to the return of a core range of Nikka whiskey age statements. Until next time, Kanpai.